Hey everyone, it's Amador, and welcome back to another day of Every Day in December. Now, I previously posted a video of our little trip that we took to Universal Studios Hollywood, and we visited Hogwarts. And like they say, I drank the the butterbeer, and I want more. And yes, so I decided I fell in love with the owl post. I even printed up some pictures here that I took because I wanted to match the color. I decided to make some signs, and just lo and behold, everything came together. I went to visit my sister, and my brother-in-law is a carpenter, so he was making her a manger and had some scrap wood just like laying around. And I'm like, oh, can I have this? Because I have an idea for a sign. So what I decided to do was painstakingly recreate an owl post sign for decor. I'm not the biggest fan of Harry Potter, but I do love the aesthetic of everything of Hogsmeade and Hogwarts, and all of it is absolutely gorgeous, and I wanted to create something in the effect to that. Now, I used a font Times New Roman, and I used this vinyl. This is just inexpensive vinyl from Hobby Lobby. I buy the store brand one for projects like these when I need a stencil, because it's cheaper, when it's on sale. I created the plaque that I made for the actual sign. The actual wooden piece is 12 3/4 by 3.5. So I sized this, I worked it. I just literally spent like a couple of hours just trying to figure this out. So I cut it out of vinyl. Now, the funny thing is, typically when you're doing some vinyling, you use the letters in the background or whatever. But for this sign, I had to study the pictures very well. And it was painted this burnt sienna kind of persimmon color, this kind of like tangerine almost, and then it was painted over with a dark ashy gray, like a really, really dark charcoal kind of color. So I got Nathan and I went to Hobby Lobby and grabbed some paints because I feel that their selection was way better of paint sometimes, and I like folk art paint. I feel that is the better coverage of paint. It's really worth the money. I don't have to do 3 or 4 coats of it, and it works out better. Now, here I'm just trimming off the excess of the transfer tape because I hate it when I'm doing something, and I've learned the hard way. There's that little sliver of transfer tape sticking out, and it sticks to something, rips on something, pulls on something, and then it's a mess. So, since they had 2 pieces of wood just lying around, I decided to make 2 signs. I figure one could be for me, and one could be for a Harry Potter fan friend. I have a few of those. And I went ahead and just literally went off of this piece of wood that was just sitting there. So if I want to make these again, I will have to have my brother-in-law cut some wood for me. Now, the color of the orange on the sign, I couldn't really find, and I knew I was going to have to mix some to make a more of an older look. I used Folk Art Pueblo and Pure Orange. Now, Pueblo is number 2249, and Pure Orange is 628. And I mixed half and half, you just kind of squeezed out half of the bottles, and not half the bottles, little pools of paint to see if you get the right color. And remember, this color that you're seeing right now isn't always going to be the finished color. When you're painting, the shade is always darker, is always lighter. And here I am, just kind of for reference, going back and forth with these colors. And you see, it's a good match. I like it, and keep in mind, when it dries, it'll be a darker color. Now, I went ahead and put more because I was going to make 2 signs, and I'm first going to paint them this orangey, I'm going to call it persimmon. This persimmon color, and then I'm going to cover it with the ashy gray-black kind of charcoal color. I did add a little bit extra of the light orange just to be sure, because I could always darken it up, but making it lighter is not going to work. So here I am just with a chip brush. This is like a, what is this, like a 1-inch chip brush. Just went at it and started painting. I did this in my craft room, and I let it dry for a little bit, and then I hit it with my heat tool just to kind of finish off drying so I can keep on going with the project, because I wanted to get it done. I wanted to see the finished product. So here I am just doing the sides and everything. Always paint everything. If you're going to give it as a gift, also paint the backs and everything, because if not, it's just going to look like a half-arsed craft project, and this is going to be part of my decor pieces now. I can't wait. The funny thing is, for the pictures that I want to take for, like, the little pictures that I post, I want to go and buy some white feathers. I totally forgot to get that. So here I'm showing, you can see the difference between the wet paint and the dry paint. So like I said, once it dries, you get a darker, deeper, richer color. So don't think that bright color, because it's still wet, is the final color. And this is how the final color that I got. Now here I am just trying to position the actual stencil where I want it. I peel back the actual backing of the vinyl, and what I do is I proceed to press my hand over it, because you don't want it to have its full strength. This is really strong vinyl, so you see here it's like totally sticking to my arm, and I wanted it to stay, and I just felt like it was still too tacky and it wasn't going to be easy to take off. And if I do take it off with the full strength of adhesive, it's going to peel off my persimmon paint. So I went ahead and just grabbed a t-shirt that I had, and I just rubbed it on there. The fibers got on there. So you see here, I'm trying to place the stencil right in kind of a centered place. I want it to look professional. I want it to look good. And I actually took it off and I redid it. But it was the adhesive was already rubbed off that I was able to reposition it. So, and that's what I wanted to have, because later on when I take it off, I'm going to have I don't want it to peel off the paint. So now I'm satisfied. I am pressing down though on the black part of the vinyl, so it sticks when I pull off the transfer tape. And I'm going slow because some of the parts are picking up. Like I said, I did rub off a lot of the adhesive, and you're just going to go a little bit slower than you normally would to make sure that the actual vinyl that you want to use for your stencil stays on there. Now, for stenciling, you can use, like if you're just using a regular acrylic stencil or a plastic stencil, you really want to use a stencil brush, which is a brush. It's a very tight brush, and it has a completely flat end, so you're able to stipple it. You want to stipple when you do stenciling. I went ahead and was brushing on the paint, but because my stencil is adhered to the wood, it's got some adhesive, so it's adhered to the wood, and I don't have to worry about it bleeding underneath the stencil or anything like that. Now here I am taking these darker gray colors. I didn't want to use just black. I use wrought iron 925 and also cocoa, which is 6498 by Folk Art. And I'm mixing them because I don't want a black. I want an ashy kind of the wrought iron look. These are the colors that even any Sloan chalk paint doesn't have a pure black. They have one called graphite. And that's kind of like the best color that I can think of. I didn't want to use any Sloan chalk paint, so if you wanted to do this, you can easily find these paints at your major craft stores. See, and I showed you right there quickly how you want to stipple it. But like I said, since I have adhesive on my stencil, I'm not going to worry about that right now. And I want it to look a little bit distressed. So it's going to even add to my distressing. Now, here on this end, you see I'm kind of playing with it. I could easily do it this way and kind of dry brush it, but I wanted to go ahead and distress it myself. Like I said, I like to, in my other project, like when I did the mailbox, I want to fully cover it and then distress it to my desire. If I do want a dry brush, I'll do a dry brush, but I really wanted to do a full coating, at least a good coating. And you see, look, you can see right here that it's, even before it dries, it's not a black paint, it's a darker, like a wrought iron color, but it's not, and that's the kind of color you want, because that's more of the older British colors that they used for the paints. Now, I went ahead and I coat them both. I did do both of the signs at the same time, because if you're doing one, might as well do a second one, and it's much easier as opposed to starting all over again tomorrow or another day to paint your project. You already have your paints out, and this way I mixed enough paint to cover both. Now for this darker color, I had to add some more paint, but like I said, it was half and half of both of the wrought iron and the cocoa, so it was super easy. Here now I'm bringing back the first one. Now I actually hit the paint a little bit with my heat tool just to kind of make sure it crust over, it dries up a little bit, so I'm not so I have some kind of dried paint when I'm pulling off this vinyl. So here it is. It actually came off pretty easily. I like to be very cautious. I kind of wiggled back and forth to pull it from both sides. Even the little star came out very perfectly. And then I just go in with my piercing tool and I get the sections from the inside of the P and the O's and a little piece of the W that broke off, but it was the negative space, so I didn't, so it totally worked out that way. and you just want to remove these things. I use my piercing tool, but I kind of go in at an angle, so I only pierce the actual vinyl and not pierce into the wood, because when you do that, you'll have a hole into your paint. And here it is. Now here it looks absolutely gorgeous, super cute. I love how the colors came through, worked out. Now I am completely drying it off now. Well, I'm getting it as close to dry as I possibly can. Basically, I'm drying it to remove the moisture, because I'm going to finagle. This is the first time I'm trying this, by the way, hence why I did a sped up video and not because it took me about maybe 35-40 minutes to get everything done. But it was, again, as always, my projects sometimes are basically science experiments, craft science experiments. And I start rubbing it with my hand. Like I said, it's already dried to the touch. And I rub it with my hand, and it's starting to come off, but it's not coming off as much as I would like to. And I had this piece of foam right there, so I figured I'd try that. And I also didn't want to get splinters, so I just decided to grab a t-shirt, an old t-shirt. If anything, it'll give me an excuse to buy a new t-shirt. But I just grabbed an old t-shirt, and I dampened it a little bit with some water from a water bottle that I had on my desk. Like I said, seriously, at this point, I'm just experimenting. So I'm going in the same direction. As you see, you will be pulling the paint, and when it goes into the lighter paint, it'll show. I just wiped it off real quick with the other end of the t-shirt. I did want it to look distressed anyway, but I didn't want it to look muddy, like the paint bled over. And here I am, just as you can see, the persimmon color is starting to come out. And I do the distressing. I distress around the edges of the plaque shape, because I didn't want them to be perfect. This is supposed to be a very, very old sign that we have in Hogsmeade for in Diagon Alley for these awesome shops. So I just went at it, like literally. I just kind of scratched it and went for it. The letters in the center, I went ahead and I distressed them also with that t-shirt, but a little bit using my fingernail to kind of scrape at it a little bit. Now, on occasions, I do wipe off the top to make sure I get rid of all that paint, the black paint that's bled over. I don't want it to stain it or actually stay. I want it to be cleared out a little bit. Now, I'm doing the edges as well, because I want it to have the full effect, because if anyone's displaying it, or when I display it for my Christmas decor or whatever decor I have, don't be surprised if there's like an outpost section on top of one of my stamp things on the wall, where I have like an owl post or something up there. So, and I'm just distressing it and going at it. And I just wanted to make sure that I was getting good distressing. And there's my big fat head just jumping in the view. Like I said, I continue to distress it, but I also at the same time want to continue to wipe off the blank paint that bleeds off. And I just scrape it and go for it. Now, if you feel that you've scraped off too much of the paint of the letters, no problem. Grab a tiny little brush. I actually did it on the second of the post of the signs, excuse me. I just see right here. This one is actually the second one, yeah. And I just added back a little bit of what I took off, just because I felt like it was way too much that I distressed it. And that's no problem. These are just literally brushes that I have for painting and watercoloring and stuff. And I'm too impatient, so I put my finger on it to kind of pull off the excess paint, and then I hit it with my heat tool. There was a section down at the bottom of this one that I really didn't like, that it was so distressed. So I went ahead and just kind of filled in just a little dry brush here and there, and it'll retouch the areas that you de-stress so much, and you de-stressed so much, and you can just add a little bit of color slowly. but I'm in love with these signs. So hopefully you guys like these. Let me know what you guys think. These will be up in my decor. And like I said, after the holidays, don't be surprised if I have an actual owl post up here. I need an owl. I need an owl and a perch and some of those cubbies from the store. Yes. So thank you guys for stopping by for another day. I do have another project coming up as well. Another Hogwarts themed project. Hogsmeade. I'm totally losing my mind. Diagon Alley project. Like I said, not the biggest Harry Potter fan, but I absolutely love the aesthetic of everything. And here are both of the signs that I did. So thank you guys again very much for stopping by. Let me know what you guys think. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.